Okay, so welcome to our week 3 online meeting. We're going to record this and watch it at your leisure during week 3. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, our agenda is we'll just go over some general class stuff like we always do, just some general questions about when grades will be posted and things like that in case you haven't been to one of the other meetings. Then we'll go over our assignments, and then we'll talk about the discussion board. And then you can respond to that discussion board. If it's on YouTube, you can just respond in the comment section below. And if you do that, if you respond to the discussion board question that I pose, then you will get the points for the discussion board for everything, just for being a part of this pre-recorded webinar here. And you will not have to do any excuse me, you do not have to do anything in the week 3 discussion board if you participate in this. Okay, so first off, when will grades be posted? The Tuesday after the class ends after 12 p.m. excuse me, Pacific Standard Time. So just make sure that all of your assignments are ready before that time, since I have to, grade everything and make sure grades are all put together correctly and whatnot. All grades are posted at the same time, so if one student isn't ready, then everyone, as far as I know, everyone has to wait for that student to finish up. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes like on Saturday night, grades for the last night of class are due at 11:59 on the Saturday of the last week of class. So sometimes, somebody will contact me and say, hey, I had this family emergency or whatnot. And typically, I can grant a little bit of extra time, so you're welcome to check with me on that. But please keep in mind that if we do that, then if I'm just waiting for one person to finish up an assignment, everyone's kind of waiting. So I get it, life happens, and things get in the way sometimes of your class, obviously. But just keep that in mind. Also, you do want to be checking that grade book on a regular basis. Please make sure you're checking the grades, making sure everything's getting posted correctly and whatnot. I can typically grade everything within 72 hours of the time that you submit your assignment. So if it's been longer than that, you'll definitely want to check with me and say, hey, what's going on? And then sometimes every once in a while I do have to, I have a question about an assignment and I can't grade it yet. Or, you do the assignment and there's just something missing or whatnot. You'll want to go ahead and check that and look at the comments and whatnot and make sure everything is being graded correctly. The discussion boards try to do these earlier in the week. They're not due, for me, they're not due until all the other assignments are due for that week. But it does make it easier if people go in there and start responding earlier in the week. If everybody waits till the last minute, it makes it harder for you guys to respond to other people, which is typically part of the discussion. However, if you're watching this pre-recorded webinar here, all you have to do is respond to the question that I'll post towards the end, and then you don't have to worry about doing that. Remember, when you do discussion boards, to respond to at least 2 other students, check the rubric. That usually is part of it. And then if it is a response that requires more than one part, then you'll want to, if you can, you want to label the parts of your responses. It just makes it easier for me to find each section. What I'm talking about is when you're checking the rubric, sometimes it'll say, answer this, and that's worth 5 points, and answer this, and that's worth 3 points, and answer this, and that's worth 4 points. So those things that are worth those points, it's nice to have those labeled. They're just very easy to find so that I don't miss anything in that. I don't want to not give you points for something just because I missed it in there. I try not to, obviously, but the easier it is to find, the less likely that that's going to happen. I do have a website that has some samples of assignments and some general tutorials and things like that. And recently I've also added, well, it may not be recently if you're watching this later, but I've also added a YouTube channel for this class, EDX6001X as well, that has some video tutorials as well. So you can find that under Professor Zone on YouTube with the name of the class is the name of the channel. All right. Our weekly meetings, we typically do have weekly webinars just like this one. Sometimes they're pre-recorded, sometimes they're live, sometimes they're a Twitter chat, which next week we will try a Twitter chat. So if you've ever wanted to see how Twitter could be used, one way it could be used in the classroom, you can join us. This is not a mandatory meeting, so it's a nice, easy, low-stress way to try it out if you wanted to, because even if everything just kind of blew up in your face and you weren't able to participate, then you don't lose any points. If you do that, because I usually give points for the discussion board, if you participate in whatever the weekly meeting is, weekly webinar is, if that happens to you and you really try hard to participate in the Twitter chat tomorrow, or excuse me, not tomorrow, next week, and you're unable to, let me know. I'd like to give you at least some credit for that, because I know how frustrating that experience can be. Let's see, more information will be coming about the Twitter chat as we get closer to that. So week 4's meeting will be a Twitter chat. Rubrics, always check the rubrics so you don't miss points. If it says, for instance, that you need to include the product and the sum function in your Excel spreadsheet and you don't, and that's worth 20 points, then of course you will lose 20 points. If you only include the product function, for instance, then you will lose 10 points for that. So just check those rubrics to make sure you don't miss any points. And your grade book, I don't think they call it the Dropbox anymore, but your grade book where you submit your assignments, you should be able to see somewhere in there the assignments you've submitted and whether or not they've been graded. Make sure you check that often, because sometimes I do have to communicate to you through this. For instance, you'll want to check your grades and see the comments and see what your score is, obviously, and make sure that you are getting graded on those assignments and there's nothing, no miscommunication there. Every once in a while have trouble opening a file. It's very rare, but every once in a while that does happen, and my comment will be, could you try to save it as this type of format, and then I can open it up and grade it, and I have to put a 0 in at that point for the grade. But if you can resubmit it and I can open it back up, I will of course grade it and then give you the proper score. So just check that grade book and make sure everything's working okay. Okay, so on to our week 3 assignments. Let's see, for assignment 1, we're going to be doing a copyright and fair use brochure. You're going to be creating a brochure. I would highly recommend using a template unless you are very, very good at Microsoft Word or Publisher, etc. I would just recommend using a template which would allow you to just kind of fill in the blanks at this point. Check the rubric on this one. There are lots of places where you could lose points. So I have the page up here that explains the week of this assignment. And it does say specifically that it is a 3-fold brochure. So, like I said, a template is probably the best thing for that. But if you're really good at Publisher or Word, you could possibly do that on your own as well. So there are some areas here, obviously, where you could lose points. For instance, it says you need a brief definition of copyright law and what it protects, and a brief definition of fair use and what it allows. If you don't have either of those things, or one of those things, you will, of course, lose points in that. Then notice it says a brief but specific list of what teachers can use under the fair use law. And then notice it says be sure to include the internet and multimedia. So if you don't include the internet and multimedia, you'll lose some points there. If you don't have a brief but specific list of what teachers can use, then you'll lose some points there. And then a brief but specific list of what students can use, and basically the same thing as the other one, including the internet and multimedia. So make sure that you include those things, because if you don't, you will lose points. And if you click on assignment right here, you will get this document right there, and it gives you a breakdown of the points and what you receive for each of those. So if you don't include that brief but specific list, including the internet and multimedia, you'll lose 20 points and so on. So you'll want to go ahead and double check that. Okay, the next assignment is our cyber safety presentation. So you're going to be doing a presentation on cyber safety. If you go to our class, you will see a breakdown of what the assignment is and what needs to be included in the assignment. So it gives you a little bit here. And then if you continue scrolling down, it tells you what should be on each slide. Notice it does say things like narration notes. So on narration notes, if you look down below, sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing there. If you look down below a slide in PowerPoint, or I'm in Google Drive here, you'll notice there's an area where you can click. If you haven't done anything before, it'll say click to narration notes. You can click and you can add notes. These are notes to help you as you're giving a presentation. They'd be like cue cards when you're giving a presentation. So that's what I'm talking about when I say narration notes. You want to go ahead and you want to check each of these areas and make sure you don't miss any points because you missed something that's required there, because there's lots of areas there that have requirements. Okay, if you're willing to try something a little bit different, something like Google Drive, which I'm using right now, then if you would like to do this in a group of, I would say a group of no more than 2, if you would like to work with a partner on this, if you can share your assignment, if you can do this in a program where you can share your assignment in a way that you can work simultaneously. So you could both be working on this slide at the same time, editing this slide at the same time. So I'm not talking about emailing the file back and forth. I'm talking about working on it at the same time. If you're willing to do that, then you can work with a partner on this. Okay? What I mean here is, for instance, if I scroll over here a little bit, I can share this presentation right here by clicking on the share button and then just typing in the person's email address. For Google Drive, you need to have a Google account, which if you have a Gmail account, you have a Google Drive account. Then you can share it with that other person. You can give them editing rights, things like that, and you can work on the presentation simultaneously. You can leave comments for one another. I believe sometimes you can even have like a little chat box, things like that. You could use Google Hangouts or Skype or FaceTime, something like that, to even video chat back and forth as you're working on the presentation. So it's kind of fun. So if you're willing to do that for the cyber safety presentation, then you can work on it with one other person. Okay. If you do that, you would need to share that presentation with me. You can share it in Google Drive, again, just by clicking on share and then adding me to that list. You'd add it to nationaltechprof@gmail.com, by the way, nationaltechprof, P-R-O-F, @gmail.com. If you have any questions about that, just let me know. Onto our discussion board, so if you just respond to this question that's outlined right here, you can pause the video if you need to. If you just respond to this question in the comment section below, then you will get full points for the discussion board. You don't need to respond to anybody in the discussion board. Feel free to respond to each other within the YouTube, under the YouTube video there if you'd like to. But if you can respond to this question at least in the comment section below, you can get the points for the discussion board for this week. And that's all you have to do. You don't have to go into the class website and respond there at all. So basically what it says here is you're choosing one educational website from Chapter 8 from our book, and then explaining how you could use that in your classroom for a web-based learning activity. And then just make sure you include these things, the name of the website and the page number in the textbook. You're going to describe quickly what the website does, okay? And then give a brief explanation of the web-based learning activity that you would use. It has to be your own original idea, just like it says there. And then a brief explanation of how this educational website enhances learning. So if you can just respond to that below in the comment section, and like I said, feel free to respond to other people if you'd like to, then I can give you the points for the discussion board. And I can check this on my own. I'll be alerted when you make a response, so you don't need to let me know. I will go put the points in shortly after you put the response in. All right, thank you very much, and have a great night, or a great day.